You ever wonder when it started? That quiet, sinking feeling? Like somewhere along the way, you just stopped believing in yourself. But you don't remember why. You used to feel capable, hopeful even. But now, it's like every time you try to move forward, something invisible holds you back. And the worst part? You blame you. For being lazy, for falling behind, for not doing enough, fast enough, well enough. But what if the real reason isn't about effort at all? What if something tiny, something you do every single day without noticing, has been quietly unraveling your confidence? From the inside out, you wake up tired. Not the kind of tired sleep can fix, but the kind that sinks into your chest before your feet even hit the floor. You stare at the ceiling for a few seconds longer than you should, already behind on a day that hasn't started. And there's that voice again, software familiar, cruel. You should have done more yesterday. You're falling behind. Why can't you just get it together? You reach for your phone, not because you want to, but because it feels easier than facing that heaviness. Maybe if you just watch something motivational, a quick win, a little spark, something to shake off the fog. But the strange thing is, instead of feeling better, you end up feeling smaller. You scroll through highlight reels of strangers, doing more, becoming more, glowing more, and you just sit there, frozen, with a knot in your chest you don't know how to untie. It's like you're trapped in this loop, where you feel behind, so you look for inspiration, but you only end up with more reasons to believe. You'll never catch up. Here's what no one tells you. That loop doesn't come with alarms. There's no loud failure. Just quiet erosion, little moments of self-doubt, stacking up like dust in a room you no longer notice. And eventually, you stop trying to clean it. You just live in it, in that low, persistent ache of never being enough. You start putting things off, not because you don't care, but because deep down, you already believe you'll disappoint yourself anyway. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, or next week, or once you feel more ready. But readiness never comes, only more reasons to delay. And with every delay, the shame grows heavier. Because now it's not just that you're not doing it, it's that you should have, and didn't. And that's when the spiral deepens. When you're not just tired, you're ashamed of being tired. Not just stuck, but angry at yourself for being stuck. It's not just the loop. It's the self-blame that chains you inside it. You try to fix it the way most people do. You download a new planner. You binge productivity videos. You write to-do lists with pretty checkboxes. You tell yourself, this time I'm serious. This time I'll be different. But inside, you still don't feel like you can follow through. Because the moment you try, a voice whispers again, not like that, not good enough, try harder. So you redo it, or postpone it, or worse, you don't even start. Because what's the point of beginning if it's not going to be perfect? And there it is, perfectionism disguised as self-discipline. It tells you you're being intentional, when really it's fear wearing a neat little mask. You probably know this feeling too. That moment when you stare at a blank screen, for hours thinking of everything you could say, and then closing it, empty, because nothing felt right enough to be shared. Or maybe it's the clothes you never wore, because your body didn't look the way you imagined, the message you didn't send, the job you didn't apply for, the video you didn't post, all waiting for a version of you that's a little more polished, a little more worthy, a little more acceptable. And that version? She never shows up. Because she only exists. In comparison to someone else you've already decided is better, you start to move through life in hesitation. You second-guess even your most ordinary choices. You apologize before you speak. You downplay your wins. You shrink in rooms you were meant to stand in. Because somewhere deep in your chest, you've decided that you're the exception. The one who just isn't built like them, who always needs a little more time. A little more proof, a little more permission to believe they belong. And what's cruel is that no one ever told you where that belief came from, or why it feels so hard to shake. They just told you to be confident, to stop comparing, to get your act together. But you've tried. God knows you've tried. And yet, you still find yourself back here, at 1 a.m., scrolling, hoping something outside of you will fix whatever's going on inside of you. But the strange thing is, the more you scroll, the worse it gets. Not dramatically and not all at once. Just little leaks. Leaks in your trust, leaks in your energy, leaks in your belief that you can do hard things. Not because you were told, but because you once believed it for yourself. But now that belief feels like a memory, more than a muscle. And the contradiction is brutal. You want to try. You still care, but every time you do, your mind reminds you of someone doing it better, cleaner, more beautifully lit, more deserving of praise. And so you pause again. You delay, you doubt. And somewhere in the middle of that spiral, you wonder if maybe you're the problem. If maybe you just don't have what it takes. But that's not the truth, is it? Because if it were, you wouldn't still be watching this. You wouldn't still be trying to understand yourself. You wouldn't still be here, searching for the moment something finally clicks. And maybe that moment isn't about doing more. Maybe it's about seeing what you've been doing on autopilot without even knowing how deeply it's been shaping you. But we'll get to that in a minute. Right now, just breathe. You're not broken. You're just tangled up in something you didn't know how to name. And once you see it clearly, you'll never be able to unsee it again. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing that even on the days you did try, when you finally pushed past the doubt and forced yourself to show up, it still didn't feel like enough. You'd do the thing, post the video, write the words, make the call, and then you'd sit there staring at what you just did and think, why doesn't this feel right? Why doesn't this feel like me? And somewhere underneath the fatigue, a new feeling starts to grow, something sharp, something bitter. You look back at all the times you stayed quiet, all the chances you let pass, all the things you never started, because you were trying so hard to get it right, and it hits you. You weren't trying to be perfect. You were trying to be safe. Safe from judgment, safe from failure, safe from that voice in your head that always finds a way to turn even the smallest mistake into a reason you're unworthy. But safety comes with a price, and you paid it in silence. In opportunities you ghosted, in ideas you abandoned halfway, in versions of yourself you only ever lived inside your head. This is where things started slipping quietly. You told yourself you were just waiting, for clarity, for courage, for the right time, but deep down, you were waiting for permission. Permission to believe that what you had was enough, that you were enough. And while you waited, the days blurred. The weeks folded into each other, and you started forgetting what it felt like to trust your own voice. You still showed up for others. You still smiled, still said, I'm fine, because even in your worst moments, you couldn't bear the thought of being a burden. So instead, you became your own punishment. Every late night spent overthinking, every morning waking up, already disappointed in yourself, every idea that never saw the light of day because it didn't feel ready. And then came the moment you stopped pretending. Not to the world, but to yourself. You looked at your life and whispered, I don't know who I am when I'm not trying to be better than this. What happens when your entire identity is built around fixing yourself? What happens when the only version of you accept is the one still becoming someone else? What if you've been living like this for years and never questioned it? What happens when you don't know how to rest because resting feels like giving up? What if the silence in your chest isn't peace but resignation? You've done everything right. You've journaled, you've read the books, you've whispered mantras into mirrors, hoping something would click, but nothing lands. Because the voice in your head always finds a way to twist the knife. You're still not there. It's still not enough. You should have figured this out by now. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you start to disappear from your own life. Not all at once, not with drama, but like a light dimming in a room no one enters anymore. You show up to things, but your mind is somewhere else. You answer messages, but your heart isn't in it. You smile, but it never quite reaches your eyes. You're not living, you're maintaining. And the weight of that quiet grief, the loss of who you used to be, before the self-doubt took over, it starts to rot from the inside. You carry it in your posture, in the way you pause before speaking, in the way you scroll past your own potential, because it feels too painful to look at, and sometimes you catch a glimpse of yourself in a moment of stillness, and think, when did I stop believing in me? But you don't have the answer. Only fragments, only echoes. A trail of unfinished projects, a graveyard of drafts, a list of goals that never made it past January. And maybe the hardest part is, you still want to try, you still care, you still hope. But hope gets quieter when it's been disappointed too many times, and there, in the middle of that fragile wanting, something inside you begins to crack. Maybe the quietest kind of breaking is when you can't tell if you're tired or if you've just stopped hoping it'll feel different. You move through the day like it owes you an apology. You laugh at the right times, answer texts, even get things done. But something in you doesn't come with, and maybe now you're starting to see it? Not all at once, but like a room slowly filling with light. Maybe it wasn't procrastination. Maybe it was fear wearing good intentions. Maybe it wasn't burnout. Maybe it was heartbreak from trying too long and still feeling unseen. And maybe you didn't freeze because you were lazy. You froze because nothing felt safe enough to begin. What's the one dream you keep postponing? Because someone else already did it better. What would change if you believed? Your pace wasn't a flaw, but a form of protection. You no longer need to carry? You're not broken, you're not late, you're not behind. You're just someone who learned to survive. By staying small, quiet, invisible dash, because it hurt less than risking your own voice. But even now, something in you is still reaching, still trying to name the ache, still hoping someone out there can see the version of you you've almost forgotten how to believe in. If this made something inside you feel named, maybe you're home. Subscribe. If you want stories that understand what your brain never says out loud, we'll be here when you're ready, or even if you're not.